Well, sure haven't done this in a while. Hello everyone, this is VGMaster2, and welcome back to a theory. A Pokemon theory at that. The premise is simple. Now that Teal Mask is out, we only have Indigo Disc left. Unless they make more DLC, which I wouldn't be opposed to, but we don't know yet. But it's quite likely that we're going to be getting our answers to a lot of the loose ends in the base game in Indigo Disc. And you all know I'm a proponent of the imagination manifestation theory that says that the Paradox Pokemon are actually created by Terapagos due to the professor's obsession with Heath's book. But other people have looked into things and have crafted a deeper theory. So I wanted to discuss my understanding of it because it's not impossible. This theory is related to the other theory, but not directly, so I'm gonna call it something different. Let's go with the Grand Interconnected Theory. Now, a lot of people have been talking about Glamora, not just because it's explicitly brought up how sus it is that Gita has one even though it's exclusive to Area Zero, but other reasons. Glamora is a Pokemon that evolved within Area Zero to the point that it is directly connected to crystallizing. You need its materials to make Terrablast. And despite being not a flower, it looks like a flower. What else do we know that looks like a flower? The Ultimate Weapon, from Gen 6. The Ultimate Weapon was at first a machine created by the then King of Kalos, AZ, which is already really interesting because AZ, Area Zero, probably a coincidence, but still. AZ built the machine in the shape of a flower. Now, it's likely his Floette's actual flower, but that's not actually that important. What is important is that it's made of crystals that can channel energy. People theorize that, since Kalos should be directly connected to Paldea, AZ went to Paldea, to Area Zero, and got crystals from it to make his machine. When he used the machine the first time, he used it to bring his dead Floette back to life. It worked. When he used it the second time, it was as a weapon to end the war and kill a bunch of people in it as revenge for his Floette dying in the first place. This basically also worked. Now, while the second time was apparently powered in part due to sacrificed Pokemon, Xerneas and Yveltal's powers were used the first time. Or both times were powered by both parties. Doesn't make a difference. But if these crystals were gotten from Area Zero, that means they contain Terapagos' influence, which could explain why the machine actually functioned exactly as desired, because Terapagos makes desires reality, but also might mean something about AZ's Floette. Either Terapagos' powers combined with Xerneas' to bring back Floette, not just because Xerneas has that power, but because AZ wanted her to be brought back, or Xerneas' power wouldn't have brought Floette back, didn't bring Floette back, and it was actually Terapagos' power that created a perfect clone of Floette with the previous one's memories, not unlike the AI professors being robotic clones of the real professors who had all their memories up to that point. Also interesting to note that AZ's Floette's specific form has the denotation Eternal Flower, the same naming scheme as the Paradox Pokemon. Now, that's all well and good, but there's another thing that happened 3,000 years ago, that happened in a place also suspiciously close to Kalos, the Darkest Day. We never found out what place Kalos was warring with, but France and Britain have a history of fighting, and I might be wrong, but I think wars were mentioned to have been fought in Galar, though they obviously didn't specify with who or when. But People theorized that the war 3,000 years ago was between Kalos and Galar, and that when AZ fired his machine as a weapon, that it hit Galar, which might have been the thing that woke Eternatus up, which spurred him to cause the Darkest Day. Now, I believe that Eternatus already has the ability to distort shit. But it's still important to note that, if this is all true, Galar, and by extension Kalos, would not only both be imbued with Xerneas and Yveltal's energy, but also Terapagos's, which might have enhanced some shit. Terapagos might be, important to note indirectly, partially responsible for most of the events in the series within Gen 6 and 8, on top of basically directly and fully responsible for everything in Gen 9. He might partially be the reason for Megas to exist and Maxes to exist, because his power mixed with the other legendaries' powers due to the ultimate weapon. Now, some people try to tie Gen 7 into this because it's the only one between them that's left out, but Gen 7 is literally isolated in every way possible, so I don't think that's the case. But, like I said, the rest is surprisingly plausible, and not necessarily horrible. Now, it must be stated that this definitely was not some secret plan of Game Freak to create this masterclass tale spanning 10 years and multiple generations. It would be a retcon, because we have evidence that in Gen 6 alone, they were rushed as fuck and had no idea what they were doing. Just look at Zygarde. This is just something they could feasibly slap together that wouldn't entirely destroy their world building and actually bring some things together in a kinda neat way. Do I want this to be true? Not necessarily, but would I be mad if this was true? No. As long as they don't say something stupid like, Terapagos was somehow made by a secret ancient civilization of humans or aliens, and he is actually directly responsible for literally everything everywhere, I would be fine with it. Listen, actually getting Kalos lore in a way that doesn't actually shit on Kalos is a win in my book. Also, technically, if it is true, that would mean that not only would maxing be possible in Galar, but also crystallizing and megas. Imagine getting a triple gimmick remake of Sword and Shield, potential Galar redemption, with best gimmick? Actually, can this be real, please? So yeah, that's it. That's the theory. And Teal Mask doesn't seem to contradict it. There's crystals in Kitakami from Ogerpon's friend having brought some with him from Paldea, and presumably those crystals having had infected their home, explaining why Crystal Pool is explicitly on Oni Mountain. As well as the fact that there's even a rumor that the Crystal Pool can bring people's desire to see their dead loved ones to life, which ties into crystallizing spreading elsewhere. It's also maybe possible, depending on if the guy died or not, which he might not have given some wording, that Ogerpon's friend himself is AZ, who we know traveled the world, including Japan, since he's gone to Hoenn in the past. The flashback shows a tall man with long hair, and if he came with crystals from Paldea, that would mean he went to Paldea, which is likely since the regions are presumably neighbors, but also adds credence to him having gone to Paldea previously to get crystals for the ultimate weapon. And the fact that it says Ogerpon looked for him but couldn't find him implies he is alive and merely left because the place was too dangerous. Maybe he didn't want to lose Ogerpon like he lost Floette, so he bailed. Interestingly, both Ogerpon and Floette are females connected to plants. There's also the Momotaro legendary that isn't fully revealed yet, but technically exists. He doesn't throw a wrench into these things, he's his own thing. Even if Pokemon does do the stupid thing and make him responsible for some shit in Paldea, this theory more concerns the crystals and their use and the consequences of their use, which is almost definitely connected to just Terapagos. So that's really it. Without Pokemon just straight up made Blueberry Academy be in Unova of all places, I think it's not impossible that some something like this theory gets confirmed. But it's still highly unlikely because there's not really a reason to confirm such things without context. But you never know, and it's actually not that bad. But that's it for now. With that said, I'm VG Master 2, and I hope to see you next time.